Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. We have with us two great guests tonight on the pod. The first is a returning guest in Raheel Manji. Raheel is the founder and CEO of Mission Elite Performance. We also have with us the COO of Mission Elite, Ivan Radomirovic. And I mean, these guys are as good as they get, man. Thank you for joining me tonight and talking all things Mission Elite.
Excited to be on here, David. Thanks for having the both of us.
Thanks for having us.
For sure. I mean, you guys are both crushing it. And before we dive into Mission Elite, which is going to be most of what this conversation is about, why don't both of you give our listeners your background in the tennis world and followed by how the two of you got connected. So with that, Raheel, why don't I start with you?
Sure. You know, my background in the tennis world is I was a top NCAA player. Turned pro. I ended up winning 4 titles, but even while I was out on the tour, I had a fascination with team and the NCAA as a whole. So I went into college coaching from there, finishing my time up at Oklahoma, where we were first introduced actually. And then from there, I went actually back on tour, tried to take all that I learned in, studying the game and whatnot. And then when the pandemic hit, that's when we started Mission Elite, and it was an obsession, and it was it started out as kind of a vision, and it's turned into a lot more. So it's been great.
Ivan?
Yeah. So for me, I was a top junior in Ontario. Actually earned a scholarship to play Division I tennis in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Studied economics and business administration. Actually, Raheel and I used to train together as juniors. And over about a year ago, we came together to build Mission Elite because it's something we're both very passionate about. And I feel like there's a lot that we can contribute for the players and the sport.
Ivan, I don't know if Raheel's told you this. He's told me it 50 times, but Raheel's still taking credit for Shapovalov's early win over Rafa in Montreal about 4 years ago. I think that was. So.
That's Raheel for you,
Yeah, and you referred to it, Raheel, a little bit. I thought you actually started Mission Elite shortly before the pandemic hit. At that time, I guess, what was your vision? And I don't think it's anything like you expected it to be as it is today and hopefully moving forward.
Right.
I mean, you can go ahead, Raheel, if you want.
No, I mean, well, when I left Oklahoma, that's when I was really kind of, okay, there's a gap to be filled in the tennis world. I started Mission Elite, and it really just began as a route to build as a third-party organization the tennis IQ and the competitive mentality that was missing. After the pandemic began, I was actually on tour. I was in an event in the semis of India, and it went to a halt, and it was a really twisty, turny time in the world, and so it was about growing and expanding and becoming way more than that. We've always been about filling gaps, and there was a ton of gaps that had opened up that we felt we needed to fill. For example, bringing in Ivan as our COO, who for me, it was a no-brainer, shared that commitment and that mentality that we wanted to build one of the best tennis companies in the world. And so that meant that we had to take off and explode and be different. And so this is kind of how we've kind of grown and evolved. And when we find a gap, we try to fill it.
And I mean, you guys have been just evolving left and right, and it's moving so fast. Ivan, if you don't mind, why don't you run down the various areas of Mission Elite and describe all that it has to offer?
For sure. Well, currently we have our performance aspect where we've hired coaches of all sorts to help in areas of mental, nutrition, fitness, etc. We also have international tour coaches that are currently following the Mission Elite blueprint, and we work in coordination with to oversee the players. Then we have the virtual camps, which provide educational courses, support team sessions, and a whole structured program for players. The aims to build tennis IQ, like Raheel said, and competitive mentality, but overall, to guide and instruct on the lifestyle and approach to being an elite competitor. We have our recruiting company that we have been building and started to help players with over the past 6 months. Our goal is to get them their optimal NCAA programs, really just trying to get them their best fit for school. We're trying to use our connections and our resources, which we feel can give them an extra edge when they're in their search. And then, of course, the aspect of Mission Elite that gets the most attention is our elite team. We've invested a lot in order to help support these top players in the world in whatever area they need. There are requirements, results, and character-wise, which make sure we're helping the right people. But it also helps all the juniors we're looking for. It gives them something to aspire for. You know, the elite team that we try to build is very character-driven, and we want role models to be the face of the company. We have our chief branding officer, Matt Shaw, who's building our apparel aspect, which is kind of in the works right now, but it's something I'm very excited about for sure. And finally, we have our foundation, which we decided was a way to keep our values in front of our actions. We want to give back and use our tennis, our platform, to help others. Currently, we're in the process of completing donations and events that were geared towards helping the Sick Kids Foundation. And it's been a goal of ours through Mission Elite Foundation to always work to find ways to give back to people in need. So yeah, a big framework of things that we're working on, but we're consistently brainstorming other ways to really help any tennis player domestically, internationally.
So along with the two of you, how many people roughly do you have working for Mission Elite?
Well, as we have so many sectors, right? There's the executive staff, which is, about 8 people in there. We have the coaches, that would be roughly around a total of, I would say 14 to 16. And then we have the elite team, which is right now around 27 players. So it's a big, and then we have our juniors, which is, averaged out to be currently, around 50 to 60. So it's a lot to manage, which is why we have to be so organized. And of course, each area takes demand. So you have a director in each area leading the way.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, you mentioned character a few times, and I know that's a huge, huge part of Mission Elite. And I always said, hey, leadership trickles down. Now, leadership, if it's bad leadership, that's going to trickle down to an organization. If it's good leadership, it's going to trickle down to an organization. It's important that you stress character when you're recruiting guys, even employees, to be part of it. Guys and girls, high character. You guys represent those values so well. And again, I'll ask either of you, I guess I can start right with Raheel. I mean, talk about the traction that it's gained and how it's been able to take off as well as, interest around the world. You've collaborated. I know you've collaborated. You've worked with Todd Whittam down in Florida, and Todd is just one of many examples. Todd's a great guy, and I know he's going to listen to this. So shout out Todd Whittam. Talk about just how it's all taken off and who you maybe, collaborated with that kind of share your sort of same vision.
Well, I mean, obviously it's been explosive in ways that we probably wouldn't have imagined, but we put a lot of work to make it such. And so I think the stem and the trigger behind the kind of traction that's been gained was our creativity. We've tried and aimed to make it a priority to do things that are different, to fill the gaps in the tennis world. And when you fill the gaps in the tennis world, it's a gap that had a hole previously, which means that it's going to be different and it's going to be unique, which is going to get some criticism and some double looks. But ultimately, our goal, right, as a company has been to do what's best for the players currently, what's best for them. And this is what we try to answer every morning. Okay, what is going to be the need of the players? And so with that, it will gain a lot of traction in that way because we're really constantly obsessing over what do the players need, and we fill the role. And so I think there's a lot of support that's needed around the world in the tennis world. I think there's a lot of, you talk about collaborations. We believe strongly more than anything in a team approach, which is why we built the elite team, which is why we operate in teams, which is why we, play supportive roles. We'll be as involved or uninvolved, minimally speaking, as needed. So I think when you're willing to put your egos aside, willing to do what's best for the players around the world that are trying to be elites rather than ourselves, it does gain a lot of traction. And of course, obviously it's been attractive and it's been interesting and it's been supporting some of the top players in the world. So obviously with that, they have quite a following that ends up being interested, and those are the toughest to manage though. So it goes hand in hand, but it's been great. It's been a wonderful ride with all our staff, and honestly, just a journey.
For sure. Ivan, anything to add to that?
Like Raheel said, it's all about finding, we're brainstorming every day, trying to find creative ways to help these pros. And really, I always stress, product quality. And for this company, it's how can we find a unique amount of different ways to help these pros and make sure if they come to us with something, that we have the resources and we have the structure to the framework to help them. So yeah, and partnerships are at the helm, really. You want a player to have everything that he needs. You need to network, you need to look at other people in the industry that know what they're doing and that are capable, so that at the end of the day, the players that are surrounded with the company have everything that they need.
And I'll say this too. I mean, if someone is looking for a tennis academy, Mission Elite is not really what that is. And I could see why you would collaborate with someone like Todd, because Todd, his whole thing is not a tennis academy. I mean, right. What I see from Mission Elite, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it's a 24/7 operation, highly personalized attention, giving you all the resources that you need. It's not just the hours on the tennis court. If you want to speak to that, how you maybe are a little bit different than your typical tennis academy, go right ahead.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. We're not a tennis academy. And sometimes I think because we do, here's what we are. We're pretty much a management service that will support our players in whatever roles we feel is needed. So some of our players will need on-court training. So this is what we'll provide. Like, really, the question we ask ourselves, and we ask our players that come to us, is, what do you need? What's going to take you to your next level? Some are going to need on-court training. Some are not, believe it, And so when we do the on-court training, and we try to educate, it does come off to some as an academy, and that that's absolutely not the case. And it's funny because I think we operate we always try to operate our performance on court at an extremely high level. When the pandemic hit in Canada, we had a lot of top players that were stuck in Toronto. So we formed and we molded into team training. If you remember back then, it was a lot of team training. This is what our guys needed at the time. So we molded into that role. And it's funny because academies get a little bit like, in the tennis world, my dad was in hockey. We grew up a big hockey family. We're Canadian, obviously. And you look at how Hockey Canada operates. The World Championships means so much. So they care so much about the development of their nation. This is the approach that we tried to take. And so for us, you have to be able to collaborate and partner within the country, the greatest minds and outside, like we do with Todd Whittam. I mean, the thing is, we trust Todd. We know how he operates. I spent time in their training camp before Australian Open. I want my players to go to him. We want to partner with performance places and really work together. We're all about the team. It's not territorial on our standpoint. And so we're not a tennis academy. We're a management company that will do whatever it takes to meet the needs of our players. If that means on-court training, that's what we'll do. If that means off-court training, that's what we'll do. If that means consultation, if that means representation from a management business standpoint, that's what we try to obsess about. What do these players need and mold into it. I don't know if you have anything to add there, Ivan.
I think you hit it on the nail there, but it's just really comes down to how much can we give the players, because some of the academies are limited. Some of these players will go to the academies and then they'll lack tour coaches, or they'll lack charting for their opponents for a couple tournaments, or they'll lack certain things that their academy wouldn't have the time for because they're looking out for other players. So it kind of gives us a unique position in the tennis world to give more because we're not solely on court at a club.
Oh, and I mean, when I attended the webinar you guys hosted during the pandemic, I mean, the organization and the structure, I mean, you had a plan for and it wasn't just one plan for everybody. It was structured towards the individual every, not minute of the day, but every half hour of the day. Very, very impressive. The next question I'm almost scared to ask because it's one of those questions like, you know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I hate that question in an interview. I think it's a bad question to ask because there's so many things that, you know, are uncertain, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Again, with a caveat, you can kind of take it whichever way you want. Talk about the long-term vision. Again, when you started this during the pandemic or right before the pandemic, you had no idea where it would be, right? You know, where it is today. And who knows where it's going to be 5 years from now or whatever. But if you can stop time today and see where you would like it to be, you know, in a couple of years down the road, I'll leave this to either one of you to answer. Maybe
we'll both end up answering this one because he's going to have his vision. I'm going to have mine. We're probably going to end up collaborating and find something in the middle.
That's great.
You know, I guess what I would say is in 5 years from now, God, I mean, when I was last on your podcast in October, you asked me this, I would have never told you we'd have an apparel side to the company. I found, you know, like I never knew. Right. But this is like, I think this is part of Mission Elite, and I'm not sure how much you're going to love my part of the answer, but we're spontaneous when we obsess about what does the tennis world in our perspective need at the time, and we try to fill it. So every day we're going to ask ourselves, okay, what do we need to mold into? And then the vision comes. Okay. But I will say, I don't know if in 5 years we plan to just be limited to tennis. I wouldn't be surprised if we try to get into different, and not even sports, you know, get into different types of this model. It could be in other sports. It could be into, I don't know, other talent representation. It could become an agency, you know, that I wouldn't be surprised if, I think we've talked about that briefly. Obviously, we're nowhere near those blueprints, but our goal is to not be limited to just tennis. It's to expand and create something where we can help people as a whole. So, you know, I don't know if you have anything, Ivan.
I think what Raheel said is that, you know, being spontaneous is pretty much why I was so bought in when we first kind of started talking about it being more than just on court. It's a long journey, so who knows where it'll take us. But like you said, that ability to be spontaneous and more importantly, to bring up an idea, you know, we'll be in conversation and we'll bring up an idea, but a lot of people will just be like, oh, that's crazy. But with Raheel and I feel like we'll actually brainstorm and be like, no, can we actually do this?
Yeah. What's the joke? We had a joke where, you know, Ivan, you always tell this joke, you know, Ivan will spit out like a ridiculous idea and I'll be like,
and then sometimes we'll do it like just to make the joke and he'll still be serious about it. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like, because we're like that, I feel like you never know where it could take us, and we're not closed-minded. I think if you want to make something cool, unique, successful, you have to be extremely open-minded. And yeah, I think that's the future, really, staying open-minded.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't even think that it would be maybe more than tennis. That's intriguing. I'm interested to see where it goes. And you know, Raheel, when Sam put us in touch, you were done with your great career at Indiana University. You were coaching at OU, and I sent a message to Sam the other day, just thanking him for putting me in touch. Just so impressed with, again, the character of yourself, what you're building with your company. Ivan, it doesn't surprise me that you're top notch, because Raheel wouldn't surround himself with people who didn't share his high character and his values and everything like that. So that's why I'm such a big fan of your guys. I always love surrounding myself around great people. Love everything that you're doing. For people to follow you, go to Mission Elite on Facebook, go to Mission Elite on Instagram. They're also on Twitter as well. You post pretty much every day, multiple times, so you'll get a good feel of what they do. Is there any other way they can contact you guys if they want more information?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can always reach our. We have a secretary that manages all the emails and forwards it off to your director of each compartment. That's at Mission Elite Performance at gmail.com. Okay, that's a great way to get in touch with us for any of your needs. And even I would say for academies or performance places or people that are looking to take the team approach, our mentality, and I think that a lot of once you go into the pros and once you surpass a certain level, as you know, David, it takes a village. So this is why we're so into the team approach. What we want to do is we want to partner with as many high quality teams as possible, performance places as possible, academies as possible, and really try to cushion the athlete fully. Our goal is not to compete with, but it's or compete against. It's actually to cooperate with and kind of give each players more than they could ever dreamed of. I think that's a major thing for us. So it's not only that those tags and those contacts are not only for players, they're for companies, high performance players, places, academies that are also looking to do something special. It takes a village to make something great, and we want to do it together. We're all about the team.
I love it. And anything that we can do, as part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network to keep helping pushing you guys. I'm one of your biggest fans out there, so we'll do what we can to help and promote you guys, and you guys are just crushing it. It's pretty awesome to see. Keep at it, and best of luck to both of you. I wish you guys nothing but the absolute best.
I will say one more thing, David. I feel like you and I have actually grown together in a little bit of a journey, from your start and my start and whatnot. It's been amazing. It's been amazing to kind of, grow together and help each other. And, how big of fans we are of you guys, of you. So, what you're doing. So, and now Ivan's in this mix here with us. The three of us can do maybe something special down the line, but it's been so great to kind of do this journey with you, David. So, I appreciate you always.
I echo that, man. 100%. I agree. And Ivan, yeah, definitely. Look, we've met now a few times and talked quite a few times now. And like Raheel said, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys all do. I'll be following along and supporting you guys with whatever you need.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.